I hadn't showered in 3 days. My boots were held together with duct tape, and the old army field jacket I wore still carried the smell of motor oil and campfire. I'd been walking the back roads of this town for a week now, keeping to myself, sleeping under overpasses, and washing up in gas station sinks. That morning, I walked into a little downtown diner called Miller's Coffee Spot. Not to eat, I didn't have cash for that, but just to warm up and maybe sit a while. The place was half empty. I nodded politely to the waitress and tucked myself into the far corner booth, out of the way. I was careful not to cause a scene. No asking for handouts, no bothering anyone. I just wanted a quiet cup of black coffee I'd bought with coins and to mind my business. 15 minutes later, the bell above the door jingled, and 2 uniformed officers walked in. They scanned the room like they were looking for someone. When their eyes landed on me, something changed in their posture. One whispered to the other. Then they headed straight toward my booth. "Ma'am," the taller one said, resting his hand on the edge of the table like he owned the place. "We've had a few complaints. People saying you're loitering." I looked up slowly, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I bought a coffee. I'm sitting like everyone else." The other one chuckled under his breath. "Let's not play games. You don't belong here, and you know it. Let's go." I could feel the entire diner go silent. I didn't move. Didn't even blink. "I'm not breaking any laws," I said quietly. "Unless sitting down with a drink is illegal now." Their tone changed then, more forceful, more performative. I could tell they were trying to make a show of it for the rest of the customers. The taller one leaned in closer. "If you don't walk out that door right now," he growled, "we'll help you out. You got that?" My hand went into my jacket slowly. Not for a weapon, though the way their hands shot to their holsters, they clearly assumed the worst, but for something else. A phone. I placed it on the table. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. "You sure you want to go down this road?" I asked, calm as still water. The taller one's jaw tightened. "Are you threatening officers?" "No," I said, unlocking the phone and tapping a contact named Red Eagle. "But I think your boss's boss might have something to say about this." They hesitated. I pressed call. The phone rang once. Twice. Then a crisp voice answered. "Red Eagle Command." The officers' expressions shifted the moment they heard that phrase. I saw the confusion in their eyes, followed quickly by concern. They didn't understand what I'd just tapped into, but they could tell it wasn't some local bluff. "This is Sergeant Olivia Knox," I said evenly. "Retired. I've got 2 local cops here trying to strong-arm me out of a public space without cause. I'm in Miller's Coffee Spot, off 8th and Jefferson." There was a brief pause. Then the voice on the line replied, "Copy that, Sergeant Knox. Stay seated. Backup is inbound." I ended the call and slid the phone back into my jacket. The taller cop, Officer Langley, according to his badge, shifted his weight uncomfortably. Who exactly did you just call?" I took a slow sip of my coffee, then finally answered. "Special Operations Command. Forward Command Unit, Fort Bracken. I used to be on their call list when things went sideways in countries you've only read about." The shorter officer, Mendez, cleared his throat. "This some kind of joke? Does it look like I'm laughing?" I asked. They didn't respond. They didn't know what to say. Around the room, the mood had changed. The other customers weren't just watching anymore, they were listening. Tension hung thick in the air. Langley tried to reassert control. "Look, even if you were in the military, that doesn't give you the right to harass citizens with no legal cause," I interrupted, my tone still controlled. "You two picked the wrong person to push around. And now your careers are about to take a turn." Right on cue, a black SUV pulled up in front of the diner. It wasn't local law enforcement. Military tags. Government plates. Tinted windows. Both officers turned to look out the front window, and I could practically feel their stomachs drop. The door swung open, and a woman in a tailored dark suit stepped inside. She wore a silver lapel pin, an eagle clutching a sword and shield. She walked straight toward our table. "Sergeant Knox," she nodded. "Ma'am, we received your alert. Please confirm these are the individuals in question." I didn't look away from the officers. "Yes. These two." The woman turned to them, her tone clipped and authoritative. "Officers, you are now the subject of an official investigation under federal jurisdiction. You are to surrender your duty weapons and step outside with me immediately." Both men froze. Officer Langley's jaw worked in silence for a moment, trying to process what was happening. His hand hovered near his holster like muscle memory had taken over, until the woman in the suit spoke again, this time with steel in her voice. "I said, hand over your weapons. Now." Langley looked at Mendez, who was already unbuckling his belt with trembling hands, laying his service weapon gently on the table like it was made of glass. Langley followed suit a beat later, slower, stiffer, like the very act of compliance wounded him deeper than any punishment ever could. The woman produced a slim ID wallet from her pocket and held it up just enough for the diner's front window to catch the light. "Department of Defense, Inspector General's Office, Internal Misconduct Division. I'm Agent Rowan. These men are being placed on immediate administrative suspension pending formal charges," she said, her voice low but firm. "They'll be escorted back to their precinct for debriefing and disarmament." Customers were whispering now. Phones were out. At least 2 people were recording. Langley tried to save face. "We didn't do anything wrong. She's homeless. She was loitering." Rowan's tone turned sharp. "You initiated contact without cause. Escalated a non-event. Tried to remove a decorated combat veteran who was peacefully sitting in a private business, having made a purchase. Your actions qualify as harassment, abuse of authority, and, under the circumstances, possibly worse." Mendez looked like he was about to be sick. Rowan turned back to me. "Are you injured in any way, Sergeant?" "No," I said simply. "But I'd like to finish my coffee." She gave a respectful nod. "You've earned that right." 2 additional agents entered from outside and approached the officers. Neither Langley nor Mendez resisted as they were led out, their boots dragging slightly like they'd suddenly aged a decade. As the door closed behind them, the silence in the diner broke into a cautious ripple of clapping. Not everyone clapped, but everyone understood. I sat back in the booth and took another sip. Still hot. Still black. Still mine. Agent Rowan slid into the booth across from me without asking, her posture perfectly straight. "I knew your name sounded familiar," she said. "You're the one who dragged 2 Marines out of that convoy ambush in Sanjin, right?" I gave a small nod. "Yeah. That was a long time ago." She studied me for a beat. "Not long enough to be forgotten. Your record still flagged, 'Do not approach without clearance,' in several command systems." I gave a half smile. That was meant for international threats, not coffee shop drama. Rowan chuckled, "Just once. Still, I can't believe local PD pulled a stunt like this on you. I'm filing this under Category Black for command review." I raised an eyebrow. "That's serious?" She leaned in slightly. "There's already a backlog of complaints against those 2. Excessive stops. Harassment. No direct evidence, until now. Your case changes everything. Your status, the video footage, the direct chain of command call. It's airtight. Internal Affairs was circling, but your call gave them the green light." Outside the window, I could see Langley and Mendez being placed into separate SUVs. They weren't cuffed, yet, but their weapons and badges were gone. And in this line of work, that was worse than jail. That was exile. Will they lose their jobs? I asked. Minimum, Rowan said. If they push back, they'll be looking at federal obstruction charges. I stared down at the chipped ceramic mug in front of me. You know, I said, I didn't want this. I just wanted to drink a coffee in peace. Rowan's face softened. Sometimes the uniform doesn't come off, no matter how long ago you hang it up. I looked out the window again. It wasn't about revenge. It was about being seen. Respected. Human. Rowan slid a business card across the table. We're launching a veteran oversight committee out of D.C. Real authority. We could use someone like you. I didn't touch the card. Not yet. Thanks, I said. But today, I think I'll just sit here, and finish this cup. Rowan gave me a nod of respect, stood, and left me alone. And for the first time in days, I finally felt warm. The sunlight had shifted by the time I stepped out of the diner. The air smelled different, cleaner, somehow. Maybe it was just the weight that had lifted. I walked slow, my boots scuffing the pavement like they'd always belonged here. No sirens, no shouting. Just the sound of birds and tires and small-town wind. Down the block, a few locals nodded at me. Nothing big. Nothing loud. But different. Like the story had already started to spread. I passed a young woman locking up her bike outside a thrift store. She looked at me, then hesitated. Ma'am, she asked. Were you the one in the coffee shop earlier? I paused. Yeah. She straightened up. Thank you. For whatever that was. My brother's a vet. People don't always treat him right either. I just nodded. There wasn't anything more that needed saying. Across the street, I saw the police cruiser still parked out front of the precinct. The badges were still hanging over the doors. But 2 names would soon be gone from that building. Maybe more. I reached into my jacket and looked at Rowan's card again. Her handwriting was scrawled in the corner, "You're not done yet." I didn't know if I was ready to believe that. But I did know one thing for sure, I wasn't invisible anymore. Not to them. Not to this town. And not to myself. I turned the corner and disappeared down the road, still a veteran, still a fighter, still standing. Sometimes all it takes is one call.